is your view on how Africa's financial space has weathered the global economic or the financial crisis?
I think we've been very fortunate because we clearly have a very robust financial framework. And in South Africa, I think most certainly we have done a lot better than most financial services sectors have done around the world. And I think, from that perspective, we're in a much better position without a doubt.
The banking industry has come under considerable pressure, recognizing growth at a slower pace than it has done in the past. Do you see further consolidation in the industry?
I honestly don't think so. I don't think that the situation is such that we would be starting to see drastic measures such as consolidation. I do believe, as I said, that I think that the financial services sector is really quite robust. I think our banking industry is sufficiently robust for us not to start to see consolidation in that sector. I think, in fact, what we've been seeing in terms of big international banks in the form of the Chinese banks investing in one of our biggest banks, Standard Bank, I think is an indication of the fact that there's a lot of interest and confidence in the future of the South African banking industry. I think more than consolidation, I think in fact what we're going to be seeing is our South African banking industry growing even further. And we're already seeing that in the likes of Standard Bank, ABSA and others who are now growing further outside of South Africa into the rest of the African continent, which itself presents even more opportunities for growth. I think the slowdown has clearly been indicative of what has been happening globally. And so that is something that was to be expected. But I think, comparable to what's been happening globally, we're still in a very good position.
If we look at the African continent is known to have a wealth of resources, but hasn't benefited much from those returns. What do you think governments should be doing in order to reap those returns from the resources, particularly in this current economic downturn?
Mashudu, I think the issue is really for us, for governments to be looking more closely at local beneficiation, because the problem has been that we've got these raw materials that are being exported and being brought back, as finished products. And what we need to be doing is to be encouraging investors, international investors, to be beneficiating local, industry. And so, for instance, in our business, what we've been seeing is that where you've got, in countries where you've got the natural resources being used to benefit local industry, you now start to see manufacturing industries coming into being. And that is what we need, is for there to be more of these types of industries that will encourage local beneficiation. I think that is a key thing to ensure that we can then enhance the returns that accrue to the various countries.
What opportunities do you think the global economic crisis has presented to the African continent, and how can players in the financial services arena leverage from this?
I think most certainly it's clear now that sub-Saharan Africa presents a much better opportunity than many parts of the more mature markets in the world. And I think from that perspective, given that we still have much more growth prospects because we're still an emerging economies, it has now positioned us as countries where investors should be coming to look more for opportunities and to be looking for long-term sustainability and growth from our countries. And so I think most certainly this has presented us as countries that have opportunities for investment growth. It's also resulted in there being more value from equity stocks on the market, because share prices have obviously dropped quite significantly. And I think for those investors who have cash available to then take advantage of those opportunities and therefore enhance value growth from that, I think those are some of the opportunities that we're seeing in the market.
And lastly, so what is the secret of success in the African environment?
Well, I don't think there's one secret, but I think it certainly helps to form the right partnerships with people, because I think in the continent, each of the countries has got its own unique attributes. And I think if you're going to be investing in certain countries, it's very helpful to have a local partner who can help you in growing within that local economy. And so I think central to achieving success in the various countries that you invest in on the African continent, I think is choosing the right partner. And I think certainly from our perspective, partnership is very central to driving the growth of our business.